Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be reading yet again some juicy stories from Reddit. And today we will be diving into some petty revenge against coworkers. All right, so our first story was posted by Kodachrome City. Coworker is territorial about her shared desk. I'll make it worse. Our office is hybrid post pandemic, and to cut down on costs, we now have a shared desk situation. The only people with permanent desks are the higher ups or people who come in full time. Very understandable. My coworker who shows up about 2 times a week still treats her desk like her own personal desk, even though our whole team is supposed to use it. She's a bit of a grump and never removed her personal items and photos, even though we were asked to do so. 90% of the time, we just leave her desk alone because it's too annoying to deal with her complaints, and our manager basically avoids dealing with her because she's such a headache. But there are times when there just isn't many open desks, so I have to sit at her desk and things get moved, of course. Nothing major, just the usual stuff with a shared desk. But of course, she always complains and whines and tries to make us feel bad for using her desk. A few weeks ago, it got to be too much. Someone else sat at her desk and adjusted a lot of things, so she blew up at me. I told her I hadn't sat at the desk, and she just whined about all the times before. I was done. So for the last few weeks, whenever I go past her desk, I made sure to move something or unplug something. It's been pissing her off so much. The best moment came yesterday when she was freaking out because her laptop died mid meeting. She's not great with technology and was freaking out. Of course, she called IT, and when they came, they simply pointed out that her power cord was loose. I wonder how that happened. Our IT guy has a way of talking which was perfect for the moment because he basically walked her through a step by step process of plugging in the cord while everyone else could hear. She basically looked like a moron for not knowing how to check if it was plugged in, and I couldn't stop smiling. This is so freaking petty. This is so petty. Uh, yes. Props to you, OP. I really love this. Imagine, j- aside from the fact that you pissed her off, you made her look like a dumbass in front of everyone. And honestly, she deserves it. If this was a post under the Am I the Asshole thread or subreddit, no, you wouldn't be the asshole, sweetheart. Anyway, one commenter wrote, every other member of the team should bring a framed family photo and all leave it on the desk. Crowd that bitch up. Yes, I agree. You petty motherfucker, I like you. Put all her personal items in a cardboard box. Those filing ones are most likely around the office somewhere, and put them under the desk with a typewritten note from corporate. Personal items are not allowed at shared desks overnight and will be disposed of if left overnight again. Yeah, if this hasn't worked yet, I definitely would try this one, putting all of her things from the box and putting a note on it. However, it might get you in trouble. So I suggest you ask a higher up before proceeding with this. But if not, maybe while waiting for something bigger, you can crowd up her desk with everyone's family photos or solo photos of yourself. That would even be better, I think. Okay, so let's move on to our second story, which was posted by Resurrection. I love that username. Insufferable coworker. Trigger warning: SA and trauma dumping. I, 34 female, had a coworker who was by far the most troubled person I've ever met. And I don't like calling people crazy, but oh my lord, this girl took the cake. Let's call her Betty. Betty, 38 female, would seem really cool at times, but then as you would start to talk to her more, you'd realize that she would barely listen to anything about anyone else and would incessantly talk about herself. Not only would she talk about herself, but you could tell that she wasn't telling the truth and was making things up for attention. I hate these types of people. Some of the things Betty would make up were relatively harmless, but then she would openly trauma dump on us at our job about how many times she had been SA'd and mention it without warning, which would trigger a lot of the other employees, myself included. Betty was also terrible at the job, which our job isn't rocket science, it's customer service. I would always try to gently point her in the right direction and tell her how to properly do the things, and she would get upset with me and cry. You're just trying to help. Sometimes she would even throw tantrums. She wouldn't ever go in private and cry. She would get in a fetal position right wherever she was and rock herself while hysterically crying in front of customers. This was just one incident out of so many. One day I had asked her at the end of the night to continue helping us close because she was just staring aimlessly at the wall. She would often do this on purpose so that everyone else would do the work and so she could coast. She looked at me as if I stabbed her mother. The next day, I found out that she told our manager that I was being mean to her and was bossing her around. I was so over it. I've been working at my job for almost a decade and have never had any problems with anyone. This is when I recognized that she may have some narcissistic qualities, and since I had an abusive narcissistic ex, I decided to go no contact. Also, where I'm from, a rat is a rat. And once you tattle, I'm done with you. If I absolutely had to talk to her about work, I would. But if Betty tried to talk to me about anything personal or anything that didn't have to do with the job, I would simply walk away and not respond. At this point, I had also found out that she had painted me as a bully to my boss when I was just trying to help her be better at the job. I'm one step down from management, and this is usually what is expected of me. So once I stopped responding to Betty and blocked her Instagram, she was also very intrusive about online stuff. She then would get so upset, call me mean and abusive, all because I wasn't responding to her. I found out from a coworker that she said she would just love to punch me in the face. When I found out about this, I was more angry than anything because I also found out she said this to a manager and the manager did not do anything to protect me. Other girls have been fired in the past for saying shit like that. So out of anger, I cried to my other boss about what happened. Even though my tears were purely from anger, I sort of played the victim card. I did not want to work with this woman, and most of my coworkers didn't want to either. She was sent home for the day and was suspended. Then after that, they changed her schedule so that I would only have to work with her 1 day a week. After the other team had to work with her more, they realized what I had been talking about, and she ended up being fired right around the holidays. This was last year, and let me tell you, I still think about her and panic. I honestly feel like she has traumatized me, and I'm so glad she is out of my life. Thank you all for listening. Betty is batshit crazy. That was the first comment. And honestly, I agree. I've also had my fair share of overly dramatic coworkers, and let me tell you, it is not healthy. It just adds more stress to your workday. Anyway, let's move on to our next story, which was posted by one underscore art underscore please. I ruined my coworker's first chance at a vacation in 3 years. My coworker and I share a space. She has been there 3 years, myself 5 months. She is not my boss, but constantly looks over my shoulder, telling me how to change my work. She is rude to the people we work with overseas online. She does it all on speakerphone and ignore me when I ask her to use a headset while she yells at them. She talks about her stomach problems and her issues about pooping. When I ask her not to, she tells me to get over it. If another coworker comes to speak to me, she answers for me and over me. She also swears at her computer, verbally responding to emails she doesn't like, talks over her breath while reading her work constantly. I told her many times to please stop, and she got pissed, saying she doesn't jump to my tune and complains of having to walk on eggshells around me. and she isn't accustomed to modifying her behavior for anyone. The company is tiny, the owner insanely, pitifully cheap. So I'm the first person in years that is able to cover her work. She is desperate for vacation and recently booked a long trip to Hong Kong for 2.5 weeks. She doesn't know yet I was recently offered a way better full time job through someone I've worked freelance for in the past. My freelancer is understanding if I was to wait a bit before I end my current employment, as my coworker's holiday is in 2 weeks. But I think I'll give my notice early. Our boss is a huge asshole and my coworker hates his guts. And it should be an interesting fallout if she goes on holiday and there is no one else who can do her job. She will have a total meltdown. Oh, and there is an update. Apologies for the delay. It was some job offer finalizing stuff I had to wait for before I could do anything. So my awful coworker has been in a great mood for the last few weeks and obsessively setting me up to take over her projects for the next 3 weeks, which I'm dutifully doing. She also clogged the workspace toilet, denied she did it, and left it before leaving on Wednesday. Today is a Friday, and told me to get the cleaners to deal with it today. Thought you guys would enjoy that bit. I received my official job offer, coincidentally, an hour before she left. I told her I was leaving and she does understand because this place sucks. I told her I'd do my best for her during her holiday and make sure all is okay. Then I went and told the owner. He laughed at me and said he would talk to me the next day, which was yesterday. So yesterday he goes into this whole thing about how when he hired me, he contacted my references, which I didn't give him any, and they all told him to watch out for me and that he was gracious enough to give me a chance because it's very hard out there right now and I should relax and wait a few months so he could give me a raise. Just be patient. I realized he thought I was bluffing. I said repeatedly that I have a job offer and I was accepting it and I would do my due diligence not to screw over my coworker and VP of sales to cover the project so we don't mess up the multi-million dollar order. The owner just kind of shrugged because he would happily cut off his nose to spite his face. Today, Friday, I saw him interviewing someone for my job. Yesterday at 4 p.m., we had the above convo and at 10 a.m. they were interviewing. I'm in a small industry that's going through hard times and I'm going into something related but not the same. So I guess it just doesn't take long to find someone. So he just called me in my office half an hour ago and told me to leave. So I said okay and grabbed my stuff. Where I live, he would have to pay me out an additional week by law for letting me go before I officially leave. I don't care. I'd like a break before the new job starts, and I'll be paid 80% more anyway when it does. Wow. So maybe the petty revenge wasn't by me for my coworker. It was by my owner slash boss towards her. The shitty coworker the boss also hates but is forced to keep because she knows everything about her job and accepts terrible pay. Good luck with the project. The VP of sales doesn't understand how the approvals work for this gig. I hope something messes up and they get dinged for non compliance charges, which is apparently what happened for the company to go to shit anyway. I feel a bit sad for the new person he hired, though. Ooh. Ooh. Wow. So it seems that everything worked out in our OP's favor in the end. Now, it wasn't, you didn't really get your petty revenge, but you still won and you didn't have to get your hands dirty. So, congratulations, OP. Now, let's go ahead and dive into our fifth, I think fifth case, not fifth case. This is not a true crime video. Let's dive into our fifth story, which was posted by Hyperactive Lime. Coworker who steals food. I have a coworker that likes to steal stuff. She will take sips of people's drinks, take from a pack of rolls and other people's cookies that were safely tucked away. One day I had Girl Scout cookies, the thin mints that I had hidden away. Guess who found them and ate them? When I called her on it, I basically yelled at her. She put the cookies down and apologized. Oh, so she was caught on the act. It was a bullshit apology like when you bump into someone and say, "Oh, sorry." Like the cookies just fell in her mouth. She offered to replace them. She's a weird health food person and only eats special organic crap. I personally don't care what diet or lifestyle people choose, but she's the type of person who thinks she's better than everyone else because she follows X diet. She brought me in some weird health food knockoff of Thin Mints. They were disgusting and the texture made me want to puke. She knew damn well the cookies she stole from me were real Thin Mints. We had a celebration in the office recently and she offered to bring Girl Scout cookies. I thought she would bring the knockoffs, but she didn't. The box of cookies sat there unopened until the end of the day when I put it in my bag and walked out with it. Edit. Okay, so there is an update. All of us tried to handle the situation of food theft in a professional manner. We've asked her to leave our food alone, to please ask if she would like something. She doesn't respond to it at all. A few people took the direct approach, like, you touch my food and I will end you. They all got reported to HR. One coworker told me that they got called into a meeting where there was our manager, the food thief, and them. They were basically made to apologize to the food thief for threatening them. Apparently, the root cause of food theft was totally glossed over and barely mentioned. It was something like, well, we all know taking food is wrong. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm very happy for you, OP, that you got your Thin Mints back, but I'm just so bothered why this is being brushed off by the management. However, I do have some experience about food theft at the workplace as well. So, my first job, I was a teacher at a preschool, a horrendous one. Now, the preschool was of good quality, they provided good quality education, but the management was insane. So, for all of the parties that we have here in the Philippines, we have a potluck. So students would be assigned different types of food to bring for everyone else, for everyone to share at the party. Now, my boss, our headmistress, she was a rich bitch. She lived in an upscale neighborhood. She owned the school. The school was actually gifted to her by her parents when she finished college. So you can imagine how much money they have. Now, for some reason, this bitch, during these parties, of course, the first thing that's going to happen is we are going to gather all of the kids in a single place and we will be having a program, which is normal. Now, as the program is happening, our headmistress will go to every single room with an assistant behind her. She would point at something, anything that she liked, she would point to. And is the assistant going to take some and put it on a plate or something? No. They would ask for the entire tray. And she would take multiple trays, maybe 10, sometimes even more trays of food to her office. And I don't know how they finished this. There's only two of them in that office. But yeah, so what we ended up doing, I guess this was our petty revenge. Because, of course, if the parents visit the room, they'll ask, or even the kids themselves, they'll ask, oh, where's the food that I brought? So what we did was we devised this plan wherein for every party we would come in, the teachers would come in a lot earlier than usual. So once the food comes in, we already know what our headmistress liked. So we would take these trays and put them inside of our cupboards, our cubbies, school cubbies, and let it just sit there. So once she makes her rounds, and she looks for food, she gets really disappointed and so pissed off. And she'd say stuff like, oh, they brought the cheap stuff. None of this is good. So she'd end up eating nothing. And yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our last story. This is by far the shortest Reddit story that I've ever read on here. But I think this is the most petty one. This was posted by Stop It Shelly 6. I took a puzzle piece to be a petty little troll because I'm annoyed. At work, a different team in the same building doesn't seem to respect other space and keeps their personal belongings on top of the tables in the shared break room. Backpacks and sweatshirts, for example. This week, they had a puzzle spread out all over one of the tables, so I took a piece for some petty entertainment. FYI, it has been brought up to supervisors, and there are available lockers and cubbies they don't use. So, and the first comment says, I kind of love this high yield petty revenge with minimal actual damage. That is true. And that's why I think this is so petty because it's so freaking simple. No one got hurt, but someone is definitely going to get pissed. Imagine if it's a huge puzzle. They're only going to find out once they're about to finish it. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And that is all that I have for today's Reading Reddit episode, Petty Revenge on Coworkers. If you guys have any suggestions or if you have any requests on what topic we should dive into next, please leave a comment below. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys on my next video.